You're listening to Stories Behind the Songs with Chris Blair. For more information, check out chrisblair.com. Hey guys, this is Chris Blair with Stories Behind the Songs, and here is another episode coming to you this week. We've been having a lot of hit songwriters the last couple weeks, and I love sitting down with them, but I thought this week I would go back to one of my Unsigned Artists of the Month. Somebody that you may never have heard of before, but I started highlighting Unsigned Artists of the Month because I think they have just incredible talent and somebody that you should know, and that is everything about this guy, Jacob Rice. Jacob moved to Nashville during the pandemic, and his first write in Nashville, get this, ready? His first write was with Rivers Rutherford. Now, if you're a songwriter in Nashville, you know Rivers. If not, you need to look him up. But let me just tell you, Rivers has written songs for, Trace Atkins, Gary Allan, Rodney Atkins, Brooks and Dunn, Tracy Byrd, Kenny Chesney, Emerson Drive, Josh Grayson, Andy Griggs, Faith Hill, Jamie Johnson, Tommy Keith, Tracy Lawrence, Tim McGraw, Montgomery Gentry, Brad Paisley, Blake Shelton, Clay Walker. I mean, I could go on and on and on. Rivers is the man. We're going to do an episode with Rivers at some point. I love that guy. But yeah, that was Jacob's first write in Nashville, Rivers Rutherford. Pretty amazing. Jacob says his influence is by acts like Bruno Mars, Old Dominion, Train, Billy Currington. He's going to talk about that in this episode. He's also going to talk about his song, Whatever Floats Your Boat, which is a single that he wrote, that he didn't write, but he's going to talk about the reason that he recorded that. He's also going to talk about a song that he did write. He wrote this one for his wife. It's called Forever I Do. Jacob and I also love talking sports and how he's a huge Titans fan. Sorry, I messed that up. He's actually a Patriots fan, but let's not hold that against him. Go Titans. He's also got so much going on. Since we recorded this podcast, he just released his first single called Picture This last Friday on May 5th. And his next single, Hurt People, is scheduled to come out this Friday on May 12th. He's also got a 5-song sophomore EP that's called Open Tabs at Empty Bars that's going to come out May 19th and produced by James Sinclair Scott. This guy is amazing. You need to follow him, JacobRiceMusic.com. Let's get to it. Here is my friend, Jacob Rice. Hey guys, this is Chris Blair with Chris Blair's Stories Behind the Songs, here with Jacob Rice. He was one of our Unsigned Artists of the Month, and super excited to be sitting down with you. This is your first podcast.
This is my first ever podcast.
Man, come on. Yeah. Let's go.
Hey, man.
Well, for everybody listening out there, this is basically a chance that we like to dig in, get to know the songwriters, get to know the stories behind songs that people might have heard or, whatever that you've put out. And also just to get to know you. Yeah. So for everybody listening out there, just kind of give a background of where you came from, how you got to Nashville and started this whole journey of music.
Yeah, sure. So I was born in Long Island, New York. I moved when I was 2 years old to Vermont, which is where I spent most of my life. Moved to Los Angeles, California when I was 18. And then 2 years ago, which would be 2020, moved to Nashville. So I've been all over the place.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of reflects in my music. I just kind of try to have a good time and have fun and make people smile.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So moved to Nashville in 2020. I don't think I even knew that. So you moved in the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah. It was a really interesting, my beginning Nashville story is kind of crazy. I was in a group in LA and I met this guy, Chad Cromwell, who's a studio drummer out here in Nashville. Does a lot of stuff with Miranda Lambert and just a bunch of other people like that.
Yeah.
I'm drawing a blank. So we started this kind of recording thing together. He wanted to record me as an artist, as a solo artist. Let's just go to Nashville, see what happens. So he brought me out here. I wrote with a bunch of people. The first person I ever wrote in Nashville with was Rivers Rutherford, which is
oh my gosh,
amazing.
Yeah.
And we just did a whole week of writing, got some cool songs, ended up, Chad's good friends with Paul Worley. who's a producer out here
Yeah.
in Nashville.
Yeah. Huge.
Amazing. They call him the Mad Scientist.
Yeah.
We recorded a 3-song EP, ended up getting some major label interest in March 2020, had meetings set up first week of April 2020, and it all just fell, all just went to the, I believe God has a plan, so it just, wasn't meant to be at that time.
That's right. Yep.
So fast forward to October 2020, middle of the pandemic, and Chad was just like, if you want to do this country music thing, you have to move to Nashville.
Yeah.
And he's amazing. He set me up with a place to stay and the whole nine. And my wife and I just took the leap, and that's kind of how I got here.
Here you are.
It was the only reason moving in a pandemic. It was just like, gotta chase the dream.
Yep.
But, yeah.
I mean, that's great advice. The same advice was given to me, almost 20 years ago when I moved in town. And it's what I tell everybody that reaches out that does not live here, that wants to have a career. Like Nashville is so much of who you know and networking that, you gotta live in this town. It's something special about being here.
Yeah, and I think living in so many different parts of the country, especially a place like LA and having family in New York, there is no place like Nashville. I think that's why they call it Music City. There's no music scene like
in the
there
world.
is.
Yeah.
There's no music scene like there is here.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful.
Not
to
just
be here.
country either. Like, I mean, it's like,
everything, yeah.
any genre you could think of, like we have it. So
Yeah, absolutely. I just love living here. That's for sure.
You do know that, like, your story is not a typical story, right? Like, you don't like move to town and write with Rivers Rutherford.
Yeah, no,
And,
absolutely.
like, that's amazing, man. Like,
yeah, it was.
He's the Mecca. Like, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was an amazing experience. What a cool guy. And we ended up recording the song that we wrote with him.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just a whirlwind, and just grateful it brought me here.
Yeah. He's just a good dude too. Like, heart of gold. Like, just, he's one of those guys that is as big as he has become. And there's a I could list tons of other great writers like that, but that's what I love to see. Is I've been here long enough, and through the listening room, especially gotten to watch songwriters who had nothing, no cuts whatsoever, to now have 10 plus #1 hits. Some of them will go their own way and they kind of get too big in a way. Whatever, everybody's got their own path, right?
Yeah.
But it's guys like Rivers and a handful of other guys that I just truly admire and love, because it doesn't matter how many hit songs that they've written, how successful they are or whatever, they still open their arms to guys that move to town like you, and they see that talent like I did in you, and they're just open to give their gift and sit with whoever, and it's truly amazing.
I was just thinking about it, like, now, like 2 years into Nashville, thinking about like somebody coming from LA being like, let's write a song. It's always hard to, like, for him to take me in with open arms and to just be like, yeah, let's write a song. And it is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So moving forward, so so you've been in town for a couple years. I remember when I first saw your music, I was like, man, this guy's like, you got a cool look, you've got the mustache going on, you own it like a rock star. Like, you just got this fresh look, combined with great lyric and great vocals and all of that. That's why I was like, hey, this is somebody that everybody needs to pay attention to and watch. And it was an honor for me to have you as what I think it was July of 20.
July. I'm honored. Thank you.
So yeah, our Unsigned Artist of the Month for July. And then it was right after that, I think, in August, that you put out Whatever Floats Your Boat.
Yes.
So yeah, talk about that whole story and kind of how that came about.
Sure. Yeah, I think this is actually going to be really interesting for people who don't know a lot about Nashville or don't live here. My first year and a half, I was really just like writing with a bunch of different people, doing a bunch of different kinds of country music. As we know, like, there's red dirt country, there's pop country,
Yeah.
there's what they call bro country, there's all these different things. and not really knowing who I was as an artist. And I had a bunch of meetings with different publishers and labels, and it was always, "Are you an artist or are you a songwriter?" And to somebody like us, that question is infuriating. It's
Yep.
like, why can't you be both? Um, so kind of just like the true honest story is I had to really take a look and be like, who is Jacob Rice? Like, who is he? Like, who am I? Like deep in my heart.
Yeah.
And I'm just a person who likes to have a lot of fun. So I was like, let me get some crazy shirts. Let me, have like a unique look. I don't have a mullet, as you can tell. uh, and chase the artist thing. While that's why I came here.
Yeah.
I love writing songs. It's my absolute passion. Uh, but I think to be an artist, you just have to set yourself apart. And it's kind of a look into the industry of like, all right, well, if you're going to be an artist, be an artist. And if you're going to be a songwriter. And there's no reason you can't do both. But to the business, sometimes they get a little confused, I guess.
Yep, yep, they do until you're the artist who's also the songwriter and you start getting multiple number ones with
Yeah.
other artists, and it's like, oh, okay, now we see the business side of this thing and it
Yeah.
works. But
Yeah.
yeah, so
I mean,
how
some of my biggest heroes are songwriters who have made it big. I mean, Bruno Mars is one of my biggest influences.
Yeah.
And he wrote a couple number one hits for people before.
Yeah,
The guys from Old Dominion wrote some number ones for other artists.
yeah, we were just talking about that before the show. Like,
Yeah.
it's like that's what I love about this town. It's like music is subjective. I say that all the time, but it's like, that's what is terrible and great
Mhm.
about this business that we live every day, right? Like you can have one person that hears a song and is like, I don't like it.
Yeah.
And then the very next week, that same person could hear that very same song and go, dude, I love this. This is a hit. It's like, well, that's not what you said last week. But but like, yeah, guys like Old Dominion, Bruno, like, those guys that like had been turned down from everybody in town. And especially the guys from OD, like, I have had the pleasure of knowing those guys for years before they ever got anywhere. And that's what's cool is like, to see them get turned down, see them write songs that become number one hits for other artists, and then all of a sudden it's like, they're blowing up everywhere for the
Mhm.
last several years.
Oh yeah, and I'm
Um,
sure like seeing them develop their sound and like who they were as a band and all that must have been awesome.
it was really cool, but the reason I'm bringing up that story kind of playing into what you were talking about is like the grind,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
it's like that's what I think a lot of people don't know because they don't know who Jacob Rice is until they know who Jacob Rice is, right?
Mhm.
They don't know who Carrie Underwood is. They don't know who Old Dominion is. Like it's the business side of things. Like when it hits, and people all over the world get introduced to your music, right? It's the it's the years before that and the grind and the writing, 5, 6 songs a week and,
Mhm.
um, the every no that you get in this town for everything. So, you've only been here a couple years, but you've been doing this for a long time before you moved to Nashville. So how has that been for you? Like, any kind of things that you'd had to overcome and just go, you know what, like just another no, let's keep going. This episode is brought to you by Sennheiser microphones. When we first started this podcast, we were using some older microphones, and Sennheiser came in and sponsored us and gave us some MK4s and 914s. And I mean, I'm telling you, it's made all of the difference in the world. We love these microphones. We use them at the listening room as well. And I just can't say enough great things about them. Go check out Sennheiser.com. If you are into music in any way, their microphones are hands down the best on the planet. Go check them out, Sennheiser.com. And thank you, Sennheiser, for the support and the sponsorship. We love y'all.
Well, I tell people the same thing every time, which every time like a young artist comes up to me or somebody who's just moved to town and they're like, hey man, like how do I get my foot in the door? How do I try to like, make some noise as an artist or a writer? And I think this is my camera. I say the same thing to everybody. You do it because you love it. That's why you do it. That's why I do it. I wake up every day
Amen.
and I'm like, I am blessed beyond words because I get to play music for a living.
Yeah.
Like, that's awesome, you know? And if that's what you gotta lean on because there's so many ups and downs, and so it's such a roller coaster that you're gonna get thrown off if you don't just live day to day and just enjoy the ride, you know?
Yeah.
So
I love that, man. I love it. So, so what's next? Like, what do you got in the hopper burning right now?
well, so I put out my debut EP, Whatever Floats Your Boat, in August, and me and my producer, James Sinclair Stott, young guy, awesome. He's going to be a big producer in this town, I'm telling you. He's so good and undiscovered, just
Yeah.
rising producer. We are getting back in the studio in February, recording 8 songs. I've played a lot of them here, so a lot of the listening room patrons have gotten a exclusive
Yeah.
preview. Uh, and I'm just really excited to like elevate my sound. Like I know who I am as an artist with like releasing this debut. Now it's like lyrically stepping my game up and really trying to do something that nobody else has done, which is just write an idea, as you know, that you're like, how has nobody thought about this,
Yeah.
in this certain way? And so I've just been writing like crazy, writing with a bunch of different writers in town, Carly Shane, Kirsten Rummel, really good friends of mine, Ava Sapelza, and just like trying to find, that one song that
Yep.
we're all looking for, uh,
Yep.
and I'm really excited. It's gonna be fun.
So that brings up a question that I always like to hear. It's kind of interesting. Different artists view it different ways, but you're writing with all these people, like trying to find the next song that you're just talking about. How how are your feelings on like when you release a song? Does it need to be something that you've written,
No,
or do you? So you're in the kind of the mindset of like, if you can write it, great, but other songs like you'll record somebody else's songs.
so like it's really funny. The cornerstone of Jacob Rice is a song I didn't even write. I heard my friend Mary Sarah play it at Puckett's in Franklin. It's called "Float Your Boat." It's "Whatever Floats Your Boat" is the song, written by Benji Davis and Aaron Ratier and
Oh, I
Mary
love
Sarah.
Benji.
And when I heard the song, my producer was also playing in the round with me. And when she hit the hook, "Don't waste your life on things that don't float your boat," we both looked at each other and we're like, "We need to record that. That is me."
That's your brand,
Yeah,
yeah,
that is it
100%,
right
yeah,
there. Like, just let's have a good time and hang out and, you know, don't worry about the small things. Let everybody, be themselves. Like, freedom is
yeah.
freedom for a reason. Just, you know, hey, whatever floats your boat, man.
I love it, dude. Very cool.
Yeah.
So, what else do you do other than music? Like, what is Jacob Rice behind the scenes look like?
So I am a diehard New England Patriots fan. Obviously.
Sorry, got something caught in my throat all of a sudden.
Born in 1995, so my whole life was Tom Brady growing up, it's like growing up with Michael Jordan.
Just for all you listeners out there, I'm like clearing my throat and laughing because we've had multiple conversations about this, but it's cool.
Yeah, no, hey, listen, no hard feelings, all right? Yeah, I'm a big Patriots fan. I just love going out and seeing people perform. I'm known as the friendly stranger. I will go up to anybody and talk to them
Yeah.
and start a conversation. Uh, really, music consumes so much of my life. My wife is pretty much my manager at this point. I don't have a manager, so she does everything with me. We travel together. We just do as much as we can. Making content, never stops.
Yep.
So,
It's the
but
name of the game these days.
we're huge Amazing Race fans. We've watched every
Really?
season of The Amazing Race. Yeah. She really wants me to sign up. Like, Francesca's like, come on, we can do it. And I'm like, I'm deathly afraid of heights. There's no way I'm going on national TV and not jumping off something with a bungee cord.
That'd be so fun,
It
though.
would be awesome.
It would be
There's been a bunch of
you should do
Nashville
it.
artists that have been on there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you should totally do it.
Yeah. Hey, you
There's
never
only
know.
one way to get over that fear.
Yeah. But
Just get pushed.
I abandoned my wife on a mountain in Mexico
Did you
because
really?
I was so afraid of.
Oh my gosh.
Well, we were ziplining. This is the most embarrassing story of my life.
Now we're truly getting to the stories
Yeah.
behind the
Yeah.
Jacob Rice. Yes.
I had a lot of tequila that day at the resort. So we went to the concierge and they were like, oh, we have zip lining. So I was texting my dad. I was like, you've been zip lining Costa Rica? And he's like, yeah, you're above the tree line. It's really fun. It's nothing crazy. And I was like, okay, I could probably do that. So we take a boat and then take a truck up this mountain. And we're riding donkeys up the mountain, by the way. So, it's like the
Yeah.
real deal. We get up there. I'm like, hey, senor, how high is this first zip line? Because I'm starting to see like a lot. Temperatures changing. He's like, oh, senor, it's 200 meters. I was like, 200 meters? Like, that's like, I could be wrong about this, so forgive me. But it's like 500 feet or 600 feet, which is like halfway up the Empire State Building. So I get up there and I look, and it's between two mountains, and it's a valley, like just like this unbelievable. My heart sank. Like I was like, there's no way I can do this. And I abandoned my wife.
So she did it.
She did. Oh yeah, she has no
Yeah,
fear.
yeah.
She grew up with a Marine father who is just like the
Yep.
best. Love the guy, and she did it, no problem. I took my donkey back down. Now it's just me and one of the guides, and I'm doing the donkey ride of shame back down the mountain. And then I start thinking, we're in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, which is one of our favorite places in the world. It's a tropical rainforest. Like, hey, you got a lot of big cats here, right? Oh yeah, we got pumas, jaguars, cougars. And I'm like, me and one other person riding donkeys through the middle of the forest.
You're just all up in your head at
I was
this
just
point.
all up in my head. I was like, oh my gosh. So that is, yeah. I guess that's a little bit more about me, but
That's awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, I live for stuff like that. I took Brittany, my wife, I took her skydiving on like one of our first few dates.
Wow.
Yeah. Our very first date, I asked her, I was like, hey, what's one thing that you've always wanted to do that you've never done? And no hesitation, she was like, skydiving. And I had been once before. And I think you know this about me. I'm a pilot. So like
I didn't
heights,
know that about you.
Yeah, I've been flying planes since 2009.
No way.
So heights doesn't scare me. Like I love it. Love adrenaline. But I heard, I was like, oh, that's cool. And I just kind of like put it away. And like third, fourth date, I picked her up. Didn't even tell her what we were doing. It was like, hey, just dress like this. We drove out to like Tullahoma and jumped out of a plane.
Was it one of those like tandem things where she was strapped in?
Yeah.
See,
Yeah.
I feel like if you had no choice, maybe I could do it.
Yeah.
But like, because at that point they're gonna push you out of the plane.
Yeah. You're going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by Brit Skin Beauty. Located in the beautiful Indulgence Medi Spa in Mount Juliet, Tennessee, Brittany is the go-to esthetician for facials, dermaplaning, microdermabrasion, waxing, lashes, and any skincare products and consultations. So many people in the music industry use her frequently, and her work speaks for itself. To schedule your next consultation or make an appointment, visit britskinbeauty.com or send an email to britskinbeauty@gmail.com.
Well, the other thing that's funny about the Amazing Race thing is that my wife is a very picky eater, and they do some eating in the show, like different crazy stuff. And so I just feel like we'd have to avoid those challenges very strategically. If we
Yeah.
did, I feel very confident we could do well.
She can do the adrenaline stuff.
Yeah.
You just eat whatever gets in front of you, and you
Yeah.
guys are good. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see. Like I said, there's been a bunch of Nashville writers that have been on the Amazing Race.
Yeah.
Which is kind of funny and kind of cool and different.
When we put this out, we'll tag them and say, hey, like
Yeah.
send an application.
Yeah.
So going back into the music, and this is a great segue talking about your wife. Like, when we had you in to do the recording, the acoustic recording, that we put out, for the Unsigned Artist of the Month.
Yep.
That was a song that you wrote about your wife.
Yeah.
So you had put it out previously as a full band,
Mhm.
and then now we get to put it out, the acoustic kind of live version of it. But let's talk about that as we kind of wrap it up, and how that song came about and all of that.
Yeah, I mean, my wife is my best friend, my
Yeah.
soulmate, like 100% just head over heels in love with her. And we've been like that forever. We've been together for 7 years, married for 2. And it's just like an homage to the day that I proposed to her, which was another like funny story. It was in Puerto Vallarta.
Okay.
And I
I see a
totally,
trend here.
yeah, we've been there 5 times.
Yeah.
I choked major. Like I got down on one knee and I was like, oh, look how beautiful the sunset is. And when she turned around, we were on the beach, waves coming in. She turned around and I didn't know what to say. I just totally choked, which is, of course, like, front man for a band, like do all these performances. And she was like, is this real? Is this a joke? Is this real? Like I didn't say anything for like a minute. And eventually I was just like, will you marry me? And that's where the line comes. Like, I'm out here with my knee in the sand.
Yeah.
Because I just knew that I was going to marry her. I mean, it was just one of those stories where it's like, we're just meant for each other, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Man, I love that. It's such a great song. It's got, great soul to it. Just the whole vibe is like, again, going back to like the brand of you. It's like I love that song because of the story and what it means to you, and you can feel the emotion when you're singing it.
Mm.
But it's a love song that's got movement, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like it's not like this slow ballad. It's like it's
a
just,
celebration,
it's just
yeah.
great. Yeah.
Well, I have 4 major artists that I really look up to. One's Old Dominion, which we talked about earlier. Bruno Mars, Train,
Yeah.
who does a lot of work in Nashville.
Yep.
And my 4th is Billy Currington, who I feel like is one of the most underrated country artists of all time.
Yeah. He's
so good,
fantastic.
so much soul.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like with Pat Monahan from Train and Billy Currington. They bring so much soul to their music. So when you're doing a song with simple lyrics, you have to bring something. It's like if you don't bring that energy or some interesting melodies or like a vibe, then you just have a basic song with basic lyrics, which is kind of what Forever I Do is.
Yeah.
Like in a nutshell. If you look at it on paper compared to a real songwriter song, you'd be like, okay, this is just kind of like what it is on paper. But it's more about the sound and the performance. So yeah, I've seen Train 4 times live. Big influence.
Have you seen the other ones? Bruno and
I've
Old
seen
Dominion?
Bruno. I was actually a fan of Bruno Mars before he dropped his first EP.
Wow.
Yeah, huge fan since day one. Back when he was doing like bubblegum pop stuff,
Yeah.
and just trying to come up. And I used to watch his vlogs on YouTube. And then I remember the day he dropped his first major label single, Just the Way You Are. And I was like, okay, this is a lot different than like what he was doing before. He was a little more edgy in
Yeah.
some ways, but and then I saw him on his second world tour, which is just that dude is the greatest singer on
He
planet
is
Earth.
so good. I saw him in Vegas a few months ago, and gosh, I mean, yeah, just
The vocal range is
Yeah.
unreal.
Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, to me, he is the king of pop.
yeah,
Michael Jackson is amazing and always like it. Just to me, Bruno, he never missed. So
Yeah.
Silk Sonic.
yeah,
amazing
yeah.
album.
That's who I actually saw in Vegas with Silk Sonic.
yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
it was just to see their whole performance together, and like both of them jumping on the drums and playing multiple instruments, and just the choreography. It was just
Yeah, and I think, bringing it back to Nashville, what I've always tried, like my first year and a half here was there are so many kinds of country music. And like, instead of like trying to fit in, I was like, I just need to find me. Like, where do I fit? I grew up in Vermont, which is very country. My hometown is 2,000 people. I did all the stereotypical country things growing up. I went to a little brick church, where there was a goat farm next door and the whole thing. But it was like finding my tribe, which is a very popular term here, and like just going all in on that and like being yourself.
yeah.
So.
I love it. Well, keep being yourself. We're huge fans at the listening room, and I'm behind you 100%.
Thank you, man.
I just can't wait to sit on the sidelines and watch you continue to grow. And for everybody out there watching or listening, make sure that you go download his music. Go to Apple Music or iTunes or wherever you buy music, please, and buy it. Obviously stream it on Spotify as well and all of that, but support the artist. Let all the listeners know, like all the socials that they can go follow you on right now.
Yeah. TikTok, Instagram, Facebook is Jacob_Rice Music. You can go to JacobRiceMusic.com, sign up for my mailing list. Really helps a lot. Send me a message. Just like, listen to my music. Tell me what you like. All that stuff. I just love connecting with people. And yeah, looking forward to it.
Jacob, love you, brother. Thanks
Yeah,
for
you too, man.
being
Thanks.
on. This is Jacob Rice with Chris Blair's Stories Behind the Songs. Thanks for listening. This has been an episode of Stories Behind the Songs with Chris Blair. For more information after the show, head over to chrisblair.com. That's where you can find information on these episodes, trailer notes, video links, all kinds of great stuff. Also, make sure to leave us a great rating on iTunes, like and follow us on Spotify, YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts. Leave us a comment, let us know what you think. I really hope that you think this show is awesome, and we really appreciate the love and support. I promise to keep gathering great content and continuing to sit down with more amazing songwriters and artists as we grow. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks for the support. We'll see you next time.